Okay, so today I'm going to go over opening up Mudbox and looking at some of the interface in there. First, I just want to show the Sculpt tools are pretty much somewhat limited in Maya. You can do a lot really with them, but to take it a little bit further in Mudbox is usually awesome because you can actually start painting textures and stuff in Mudbox as well. But it works in basically the same thing. So if you were kind of like used to working in Mudbox, working in Maya, you'd obviously need to add more divisions to like say this model here to start smoothing it over. I don't know if I want to take it any higher. That works. Good thing about Mudbox, you won't have to work in this high resolution all the time, bringing it back and forth. So like you can start using these tools here to start sculpting around. Um, Kind of like forming how you would want. And like I said, you can get pretty far with the sculpting tools in Maya, but they're somewhat limited. Um, so I would suggest if you're doing any high res type sculpting and stuff like that, get over into Mudbox. So first off, before I show you how you can kind of interface back and forth from Maya to Mudbox, you can download Mudbox. It's the same as you did Maya. Use an educational version. Um, I don't think it's nearly as big as Maya, the interface, the file is. But let me open it up here and I'll just show you from the screen get-go some of the features and stuff and how to really start. The biggest thing I want to kind of make you aware of is you can work in layers and stuff like that in Mudbox. So there's a welcome screen here and my interface is on my other screen here, which I can't move. So, but you'll get this here. Well, let me close it so I can move the interface over here. There we go. So new scene. I would suggest walking through these little really quick featured lessons, little 1 minute movies. Show you everything. You know, a lot of people overlook them, but they're really powerful. It's kind of basically the same thing I can show you, but you can use some of these presets to kind of get where you're going with certain models. I'm just going to drop a sphere in here. So I'm going to open up a sphere, and now if you're used to any of the controls in Maya, they work about the same way. You have your middle mouse key and your Alt, or I'm sorry, your left. That starts up. You go. Your Alt and left click mouse. You can pan around, circle around. You can middle mouse Alt, and then it kind of like does a pan where the whole thing will move like that. It's based on the mouse clicking the left click, the middle mouse key, and the Alt key on a PC. Mac, I'm not really sure what it may be, but everything is set up. You have sculpting layer, which is over here, kind of like um, your object list layer is like your outliner, basically in Maya. Shows you what everything's consisted in the actual scene, what you got going on here. And I wouldn't consider Maya a scene building program. Obviously, it's just basically for one model, and then you can kind of adjust lighting to see how things look in the Maya. But I usually get out of there and go to Maya for that kind of stuff instead of doing that stuff in Mudbox. I use Mudbox strictly for just sculpting and painting. So, but it's got a nice where you can see all your layers and everything. Now we'll probably be working the layers tab over here. So if you keep your tab over here like this, these down here are your sculpting tools. These are your paint stamps and materials and everything down here. These are your attributes of your brush tools and stuff like that. You have a UV layer, an image browser tab. We'll work in the 3D view right now. So just starting out, you have this thing, and if you can't see any wireframe on there, you can press W to kind of toggle the wireframe on and off. I like to keep the wireframe on because I'd like to see how many divisions I have in there. So just starting out, if you just hit a sculpt tool right here, and if you'll notice there's more sculpt tools that go all the way down through here. I'm just gonna like click on the sculpt tool and see what happens. Now you can see that I've already like got something going on here. And if you notice the size of the brush and the strength of the brush will obviously change if you bring them up and down. And it works the same way as in the Maya sculpting tool, where if you had you could press B and left click and left and right with the mouse holding it down scrolls out the radius. It changes the size of the actual. It's the same way like the soft selection stuff would work. Now it's really too big. I'm kind of like affecting the whole model there. This works the same way in Maya. So if you hit B, you can kind of do that too with the size of the brush, size of the strength, but the size. So now it's just kind of like lifting, kind of moving. Smooth is basically kind of smoothing that surface back out. Kind of gives you a nice little reset. Doesn't really change your form much, but you got to kind of keep smoothing it to get your form back. And if you scroll over these things, you kind of get a description of what each they are. Relax, basically, it's for the smoothing surface without affecting the shape of it. So you can just smooth any hard edges that you might have made on there. Let me make some more. Let me lower my brush size. Turn my strength down. The cool thing about it, you can hit this invert. Where's it at? Invert function. It kind of like will invert the action. So now I'm kind of pressing in. So if I need to like make some divots in, now I can kind of run it in like that. Grab is basically kind of hard to use sometimes, but kind of grab pieces out. The pinch kind of works the same way. I like to use the grab tool to actually make the shape. If you kind of like raise the entire, now you can start taking one object, say a ball, and start forming a head or something like that. So it depends on the size of your brush. Let me turn it down a little bit. Pinch, flatten, flatten. The foamy is really cool because it kind of gives it like a raised, very raised foam. I won't mess with spray. Imprints basically to imprint like a stamp. Scrape is really handy. Kind of needing some more divisions in here. Take it back to how it was. I'm just Control Z and I'm undoing things. I'll turn my size down. Yeah, I need to like make some more divisions. And you can kind of experiment with these different tools down here. Usually I tend to stick with my certain tools that I like, that I have in here. And then you can kind of look at the stencils and stuff like that. The imprint, we'll just look at that for a minute. Let me print this right here. Actually, it's easier to use them with the Sculpt tool. So if you have your Sculpt tool and you have your stamp image, you click that, and now you can kind of change the stamp image to whatever it was. Now you'll kind of sculpt that image in, basically. See the way it's kind of starting to stamp in those shapes. That was a mistake. So if you've got like a scaly back or something like that, you can kind of like get these shapes down here. That's usually what I'd use these for. And up here, you'll have your sphere and your object. Sphere for your layer list. Create new layers, and I'll go over that in the next video. Divisions and creating more divisions and stuff for your eyes. But this is basically just kind of an overview of like what these tools are, how to rotate and move around in this, like Alt, left click, just like my interface. But yeah, that's kind of getting started, just opening up the program, and it's often best to try to just bring in one of these objects one time. basic head. Now you can start like creating how this character, this creature would be based on how you're pulling and how like you're shaping the some kind of crazy man, little alien. And then start using the tools on this guy here so you can see how all the tools work and everything. But okay, well, in the next video I'll go over like adding divisions and then utilizing this layer for your models and stuff like that. So okay, thanks.